Zeus is laying it down. The intro song's rolling. Everything's gonna be okay, Raph. Let's just stay positive. We'll be fine. Probably. Raph, maybe you can explain to me why there are a lot of people laughing at a picture of me tapping to an illegal move, which is apparently it means it's time for verbal tap. What the hell happened last night, Raph Esparza?
Okay, let's start by saying it's not an illegal move.
You crossed my knees over one another. I believe it's called like some sort of figure four. Am I hitting that right? The move name?
No. It's
Okay.
actually called a sharpshooter.
Thank
but
you.
No, I'm actually implementing, as you can see where I'm holding the move,
Highly illegal.
it's actually more of a... No, not illegal, because I'm using it as a leg lock. Like I'm actually getting... The tap is coming more from where the ankle is, and that's what it's eliciting it.
Yeah, that's why in so many high-level jiu-jitsu matches you hear that person submitted via sharpshooter. No,
Well, the
something
thing is,
was
Kevin,
going on.
I'll get to that. I just want you to know, Kevin, it's okay to be beaten by an inferior
Thank you, Raph.
person if that was the case, but that's not the case here.
I-
You were beaten by a better person with a better finishing move. So, I mean, these are things, Kevin, and the people, they love it. Do they not?
Yeah, they really do. And I would just like
Yeah.
to appreciate them for their support.
And I like the idea that you see the pain in your face. That's the best part of that photo.
It was an illegal move, Raph. Illegal moves usually elicit a little bit of pain.
It's not. It's not an illegal move. And I'm sorry that you had to go out in such a sad and really, like, how do you say, embarrassing fashion?
At least the rash guard looks good.
The rash guard
thanks
looks
to
great.
Malware.
Thanks, Malware.
That was the one thing my girlfriend said. She goes, "Hey, the rash guard looks cool." It's like, "Thanks, honey."
Oh, you mean your girlfriend
Thank you
didn't
very
laugh
much.
at you?
Well, after she got done laughing, she goes, "No," like when she was into the consoling stage.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah, and I love it when we get there. WrestleMania, the Overtaker did something wonderful to the new Captain Planet movie.
Okay. Here's the thing. Kevin knows nothing about pro wrestling, and that's why he says dumb things like a sharpshooter is an illegal hold in jiu-jitsu, which, as we all clearly know, as civilized human beings, it's not.
Yeah.
So when Kevin does dumb things on the show, every once in a while I'll throw in a pro wrestling reference, and he'll never understand them. Like, he has no clue how many of them I drop into the podcast.
I really
and
don't.
it's like a fun game.
For you. For me,
Oh,
it's
it's great.
just...
And the
my
feedback
life.
I get from people is when people say, "Did he really not know that that was that?" And I said, yes. He doesn't know a lot of things. But
it's
he's
not an
special
act.
at that.
He really doesn't know what I'm talking about with this pro wrestling thing.
So yesterday was a special event. It was WrestleMania 30. And I was trying to educate Kevin about the fact that The Undertaker, who up until yesterday had a streak of 21-0, which means every year at this event, he has won. And to really hammer the point home for those of you who don't care or just don't understand this, imagine every year being told this guy is going to win and falling for it every time. And in a predetermined sporting event, if he doesn't win, you would be outraged.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed. That would
Okay.
really get my goat.
Now, do you know who beat him, Kevin?
I do know who beat him.
Who was it?
Brock Lesnar, former UFC fighter.
Okay. Is that significant to the MMA world, Kevin?
Absolutely. It was.
What if I were to tell you they were using Gogo Platas and Kimuras against each other?
What? Really? Like...
Yes.
Oh, God. I guess I'd feel exactly like I did after having watched the movie The Last Stand. Not great.
Ugh. All right. I'm going to come back to this later. So I thought a fun thing to do would be to show Kevin the match, like the last 3 minutes, because that's all you need.
Yeah, you really piqued
and
my interest with some things today.
To give him the backstory, which started with MMA Roots, which is right after Cain Velasquez beat Brock Lesnar about 4 years ago.
And this is interesting.
Yes, Ariel Helwani was talking with The Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar walks by him, and Undertaker, after Brock loses, just goes, "Hey, you want to do it? You want to do it?" And no one, including Ariel Helwani, had any idea what any of that meant.
Now, I have two questions, because I have a lot of questions about this. The first is, where did you find that? Have you known about that video for a while? Did it just surface? Okay, so you've been
there at fight.
Okay, and is that normal at all?
It's normal for Ariel Helwani to grab anybody he can and talk to them.
Oh, okay, that is normal. That was my first question. I was shocked he interviewed The Undertaker. I didn't get it, but go ahead.
The Undertaker has a huge following. You're going to get people to look at it no matter what.
Sure.
The weird part is why The Undertaker felt the need to talk to Brock Lesnar right then and there, and the indecipherable "you want to do it" is confusing.
That's the part I'm asking about. Is that part, does that ever happen? Like, that seems so foreign to me.
I don't know. I've never lived that life. I've never lived as The Undertaker, so I really can't tell you what's real and what's fake.
If it's habitual, or if it's like a thing he does. Like, he also said it to Jordan once as he was leaving a series. He was like, "Hey, you want to do this?"
Well, he also gets up out of a coffin every morning and is like, "I don't have to do this every day."
You would watch the shit out of that show if it was just different sporting events The Undertaker challenged people after. That would be...
But here's the thing, and this is what I'm most excited about. I gave a 3-minute clip of the match, the last 3 minutes, to Kevin, and I want to hear Kevin's interpretation of what he saw.
So you prefaced it well, because Raph knows me, so he sends me a 3-minute video being like, "Hey, make sure you watch every second." Raph doesn't go to the toolbox with that. I don't know why I'm using that metaphor. Raph doesn't take the time to explain that unless he means it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm watching, and I'm watching a super boring, I've seen the same fucking wrestling match I've been watching for 30 years when someone's like, "Check out a wrestling match." And then he lost, The Undertaker, loses to Brock Lesnar via, I don't know.
It's called an F5, Kevin. It's very
whatever. So whatever.
And just to give you the background, The Undertaker tombstone, which is his finisher. Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar kicked out. And then all of a sudden, the third F5 was the one that did in The Undertaker. So Kevin, continue.
And then I'm so glad you told me about The Undertaker's streak beforehand, because I would have been losing faith in America with what happened next. Like, they did a minute and a half of panning out to the audience, and they were doing that close up. People were physically upset about what happened. Like, people were reacting in a way that you would expect to see them reacting tonight at the end of March Madness. Like, people were crying. People were feeling physical things. Of course, there was the kid with the meme and the "Just Say Yes" shirt or whatever.
It's a nice black dude who's just staring out into the abyss with confusion on his face. Like
he just watched the Titanic go down again. He just
Kevin,
watched it.
And I don't know that you get this, but it's 21 years of fucking with people, and then just to go, you know what? Let's just finish it this year. Fuck it. Let him lose.
No, I guess that's my take. So I found it. It was fun to get it on so you're saying people felt, after 21 years, people felt a genuine tie to this?
Yes. Okay. It is, and I will tell you this as somebody who reads a lot of articles, and I separate my fun tabloid nonsense from the hard-hitting journalism. A lot of really respected publications referred to the Undertaker streak as one of the best streaks in sports history. Not sports entertainment, sports. So to see that happen and to see those reactions, it was a little sad, because you do understand all of these people at this point have realized my childhood is dead. But
Yeah,
it's even
that's what they
worse
realize.
when
So-
it's also put on tape, because I feel bad for this guy that he paid, and others like him who were put on camera with their reactions, like thousands of dollars to be at this WrestleMania. And he didn't ask to become a meme, but that's what's going to follow him for the rest of his life now.
I just assumed you were asking. If you were at the WrestleMania and you felt like the need to have a standing emotional reaction, you're asking to become a meme.
Kevin, I hope that you heed those words, because I feel one day it will come back to haunt you.
Like fucking everything else I say, I'm sure it will, if you haven't been following the over-under streak. Did you enjoy the event? I don't know what to fucking ask you. Was it fun? I don't know. Did you like it?
Yes, it's actually, you know what the thing is? It's a great event. If you don't understand that the UFC is taking from that business model and production value, you're behind. And from a different standpoint, this is the first year that they've had the WWE network, so that you could buy WrestleMania for $10 as long as you're willing to buy 6 months worth of UFC or WWE programming. And the UFC still doesn't offer pay-per-views, so think about it. The UFC needs to get on that train, and we'll see what happens.
I do appreciate that they are a very successful business model. And I guess here's the way I sort of look at it. I try not to judge people as much as... I mean, I judge people all the time normally. I'm just saying I don't try to judge them more for enjoying WrestleMania, because it's kind of like enjoying comic books. It's like similar in that sort of vein, except a little bit more live action and a lot more self-tanner. Any final notes as I get that haymaker in?
You can try, Kevin, except I feel that a great deal of our listenership would probably agree with me, or at least be really sad that they'd have to agree with you, because I'm having way more fun.
Well, in honor of rolling deals coming out on BJJHQ, let's talk about something I know we can agree on. Did you see that really cool brown gi that someone designed yesterday that they had up?
I don't like it.
What are you talking about? You're not a fan of the brown gi.
I'm not.
Why?
I don't like it.
Why? That's not a reason. Like, I don't like it. It's awesome. You like gray. You like this alternative colors. It's not as douchey as red, not as loud as yellow, not as effeminate as, plaid. Ooh, a plaid gi. Oh, God.
No.
If only it was... Let me throw that to Scotty. Come on, a plaid gi?
No. Kev,
Okay.
I'll
keep
look
it
at this as we have very different approaches. I am already brown. I don't need a brown gi.
You are not playing a race card here. You're saying...
It's not a race card. It's just the way my face looks, you dick.
You don't want it to get washed out. I understand. I get that.
Do you there are certain colors
No, I don't
Hispanics
get it, but-
do not wear. I don't wear orange because the association that you're a criminal. No, thank you. I don't look great in red because of the face. Maroon, maybe. Red, not so much.
That's of the criminals. Oh, that's
Think
perfect.
about it,
God,
you dick.
I would not have thought you did not like the brown gi, and I could have never imagined these were the reasons. That was perfect,
And that's
Raph.
part of it.
Thanks
but
for the
that brown
surprise.
gi, nah. And you know what? That's even saying, as somebody who's looking at that kind of a gi, and I just go, I don't like brown for
Unbelievable.
that kind of a purpose. I don't think a brown gi looks great. And
Hey,
I've seen.
Asked
but
and answered, America.
Challenge to everybody now.
You find the gi that Rafa Esparza will like. Hey, let's transition to Jake Shields' former organization, the UFC. We are, of course, sad to see Jake go, but, maybe he'll try to sign up with some World Series of Fighting. I don't think we've seen the last of Jake Shields in a cage. Let's talk about UFC Fight Night, Nogueira versus Nelson. Raph, what time is this on?
Okay. My time?
Yeah.
It is going to be at 2 p.m. on Friday.
Okay.
Your time, it's 11 a.m.
Oh, that's the sound of me scheduling important lunch meetings all of Friday afternoon while I work from home. Does everyone hear that? It's funny how that works. Froy Nelson is on the card against Minotauro Nogueira. Genuinely, who do you think wins this fight? Because I don't know.
If Big Country makes it into the octagon, I think he has a 60% chance of winning.
Just because of his girth, because he'll be taking it out.
No, that has nothing to do with it. Why would you say that, Kevin? You're like a sizist now, including being a racist. Kevin is also a sizist. We're learning so much about him tonight.
This is like the least amount of things I've ever had to say to get accused of being a racist. That I love that brown key. Oh, good stuff.
It's the fact that you laughed at it, Kevin. The fact that you laughed at me saying I'm brown and I don't like that, and you were insinuating that, and it's terrible. However,
you
to
heard
get
it
back
in my
to this
tone,
point,
and I think I owe you an apology.
Thank you.
And I sincerely, Raph.
I like this headline, though, that it says, Shield's manager, Jake surprised but ready to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off one loss, but his fights have been about the same for the last 5 years. I mean, that's probably why he got the axe, right? Just not really... You know, it's easy for me to say from a commentary perspective, but just watching his fights, I know exactly how a Jake Shields fight is going to go, and it's not the most high-octane, entertaining battle anymore.
Sure.
So... But Jake Shields gets the badass card. And frankly, I'm just surprised because I still do want to watch him fight, though. So I'm a little surprised they cut him.
It's a little sad, but maybe it's one of those, for a guy like him, things where it does good things for him. Like, imagine fucking One Fighting or any of these other places. Bellator, potentially, but I almost feel like he's a World Series of Fighting fighter.
Yeah. Probably headed that way. He and the Bam Bam can do an all-American tag team. That'd be awesome.
Well, speaking of that, we just found out Josh Hill signed a contract with them.
Holy shit, the gentleman. The gentleman Jay. That's
Who
awesome.
was also watching WrestleMania, might I add.
Oh, God, for fucking this.
I'm just letting you know, all of the people that we like were either tweeting about it or liked our photo.
I noticed that. I noticed a strong majority of people coming out with a strong opinion about that photo of me tapping so wildly. I challenge them to have a photographer while they're rolling in a ring, and we'll see what photos pop out of them. And I'm not going to be supportive, Raph. I'll tell you that now.
Terrible threat.
Yeah, that was the worst. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone for making it. I'm sorry for wasting people's time with that threat. I might cut that out. We'll just
I'll let everybody know as repercussions for that, and Kevin's intolerance and bigotry and his overall hatred of everything.
You know, for
next time I see him, I will take care of him accordingly via another finisher hold. I guess we'll just have to find out later.
An illegal finisher hold.
It's not illegal.
With that accusation, I'm going to say Minotauro Nogueira is going to win this match against Roy Nelson. I've decided.
Okay.
Number 11 over number 9.
Yeah.
You'd rather see Minotauro? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can have that. Well, screw it. Why not?
Like, Roy Nelson's fun in the moment, but I never find myself saying, I want him to win.
Yeah. Though I did kind of, yeah. Okay. I like his attitude. I do love his post-fight pressers, too. They're among the best in the business. Clay Guida versus Tatsuya Kawajiri.
That was pretty still terrible, but okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not Kawajiri. Maybe Kawahiri.
I would like the guy whose name you can't pronounce to win, so that way, when we come back to it, it's even funnier.
There's another one. Yeah, 9 versus 12. I don't know anything about Tatsuya, but we know what Clay Guida is capable of. Massive top abs. Howard versus Lafreniere. I'm going with Lafreniere because you should see their pictures on the UFC fight card. He looks like he's 1/8 of John Howard's size. John Howard's definitely winning this fight.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, I'm going with Howard just because science says he should win.
Science. Ramsey Nihem versus Benil Dirouche.
Let me say Darush's hair, it looks like it has been photoshopped on.
It doesn't look real. And like someone did just like a MS color job. Like not a very good one.
You could also get like a chia pet
Paint.
and maybe put that on top, and maybe that explains it. But yeah, it's definitely CGI'd on.
Dariush is going to find. That's Rafa Sparza, verbaltapcast.com. Jared Rosholt versus Daniel. Oh, my. Really? Omi Lanskuzk. No. Come
Is this
on.
the guy? If you look at his photo, he
Omi
looks like
Lanzu.
Mac from It's Always Sunny.
Yes. Absolutely. So let's just go with him. Why not? It's like, yeah, whatever. That sounds great, Kevin. Ronnie Yaha versus Johnny Bedford.
How can you not go for Yaha?
Because Bedford's nickname is Brutal.
Yeah, but he's also got feet like
Little tiny
footprints.
ones. Yeah. Like, doesn't look like
tattoo.
probably a baby's. Yeah, I agree.
Ah, shit. I feel that is going to actually have like a really nice story to it after I
Yeah.
just shat on it.
Probably.
All right.
Just blame it on me. People will be like, yeah.
I will. I'll be like, Kevin fed me that line off air.
You people are definitely going to buy that. That listen to this watch yesterday. That's how it works. Thalas Letes versus Trevor Smith, whose nickname is Hot Sauce.
Well, Smith wins.
Trevor Smith is arguably one of like the blandest names possible to have a nickname called Hot Sauce.
Well, because hot sauce makes everything better, though.
True, but I'm going with Lattes. Chris Camuzzi versus Andrew Craig.
Andrew Craig looks like he should play soccer.
Andrew Craig probably did play soccer until this moment, but I'm going with him, and here's why. He has long hair, and I'm supporting the movement. Not like long hair. It's not like a weird long thing, but like below the ears.
Not like your weird long hair, right?
It's longer than mine. No, it's fuck off. It's the it still works.
That joke was so beautifully put in because you could see it happening in your face where you're responding to it without realizing. Yeah, that's great.
I wrote that one too, America.
No. Clearly people know who writes the funny here. Chris Camozzi, I'll go with him because he has a grenade tattooed on his chest that has wings.
So if that comes at you, I agree.
And it's
Frightening
followed next to a
tattoo.
tiger on his right arm.
He's got a lot going on. It's like a mythical zoology theme.
And you know what? We're not even going to mention what the next match is because neither of those people bothered to show up for photo day.
No, and you and I have talked about this. You can't find a photo of them. Like, are you fucking kidding, UFC?
Like, go to their
Come on.
Facebook.
How serious is that? That would be awesome. They should have their Facebook profiles. That'd be way better than them, like, looking all badass.
It's a great default.
You know Roy Nelson would be in sleeveless shirts or Hawaiian. And that's it. Like, those are the only two shirts he wears. Business and dress business. These actually look like fun fights, though. So, UFC Fight Pass, Friday, April 11th, Nogueira versus Nelson, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. over here on the East Coast. Wait, switch that. No, which is it? 2 p.m.
Yes.
East Coast, 11 a.m. your time.
Yes.
I'm good at this. Hard to believe my 7th grade algebra teacher told me math wasn't my thing.
Hard to believe.
Rap, we have great guests on tonight. You want to go start talking to them?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's clean up this podcast with a little class.
I would like to say we had there's a storm in the area, so we had a lot of calling out reception errors. So please just deal with us. We did the best we could to edit it down and cut out some of the moments where my system was messing up. And big thanks to our guests for being such cool sports about it. They're jiu-jitsu guys. They adapt. All right, Verbal Tap fans, we have, and this is fun, because we've been working on this intro for a little while now. Scotty from OnTheMat.com, and everyone knows Scotty. He was just refereeing the Metamoris matches. He's kind of everywhere in jiu-jitsu. We described you as jiu-jitsu's most interesting man. How do you feel about that one, Scotty?
You guys must not get out that much.
That's absolutely fair. We also thought about introducing you with your soon-to-be Broadway one-man show, This One Time with Scotty, where in which you and jiu-jitsu people just talk about funny Scotty stories, because we seem to hear a ton from all of our friends.
Well, there's definitely a lot of them out there.
I was going to say, on Broadway, you could do whatever you wanted, too. We're just throwing that out. And you also promoted, sponsored, and refereed 2 fighters, both from the On the Mat series at Metamoris. How do you stay impartial during those times, Scotty?
Well, actually, I sponsored 3 guys there, and that staying impartial thing luckily had a lot to do with the rules. And I talked with Halleck a long time before that. And I just said, hey, I'm sponsoring Eddie, I'm sponsoring Dean, I'm sponsoring Sean. So that's half the matches out there. Are you guys, are people cool with that and everything? And he said, hey, I trust you. You've always been a fair, honest guy. And I talked to everybody involved, and everyone's okay with it. So I said, if everybody else is cool with it, then I'm cool with it. So
yeah, we didn't even question it. We were also super okay with it. It was like, it's Scotty. He's probably sponsored almost all of them at one point or another. But that's cool. I forgot Sean Roberts. That's the person I have left off my list.
Yeah.
And Raph was telling me a story that you were actually... When did you find out you were reffing Metamoris? When did you agree to do it?
Well, about 2 days before, Halleck asked me if I was open to it kind of as a substitute referee. There were supposed to be 3 referees from what I understand. And, I said, hey, if you need me, absolutely, you need me, cool. But I was really planning on enjoying my night, And then the day before, he hit me up and he said, hey, I'm definitely going to need you. Can you shave your beard and get a black outfit? And I said, all right, I guess. Kit Dale's gonna kick my ass, but yeah, I'll get a shave. And then I got there the day of and was told that nobody wanted to referee Hoyler Eddie. And then I talked to Halleck and he said, hey man, will you referee all the matches? And I went, oh my God, 3.5 hours, And Halleck said, no ref, no show, brother. I need your help. And I said, all right, man. If you're cool with me doing it, then I'll do it. Let's do it.
Okay, I need to stop you here because there's about 5 different parts of that sentence we need to break up. Number 1, you have to shave your beard in order to ref.
Well, I did have this big, wild man beard thing going. It all started with No Shave November. We had kind of like a contest going around here with the No Shave November. It got pretty big then, and that was the biggest I had ever had it. I had a little bit of a head start. About 2 weeks I hadn't shaved before November started, and then I just let it go, and it was getting so big. The girls that I work with here at the warehouse, they said, you should let it go and be Santa Claus for Christmas at all the stores. I have this red and white Santa Claus jiu-jitsu gi that I wear around to the shops during Christmas. So they said, let it grow out. It'll be perfect with your beard and everything. So I just let it grow. And, it's fun having a beard. I never had a beard that long. And then Kit Dale came out to visit me, and we were hanging out, and I couldn't believe how many ladies he gets with his beard. So I thought, man, I might be this Kit Dale guy. He's onto something. I better follow it and let it go. But yeah, Halleck was a little bit scared that my beard would get too much attention and people wouldn't be able to pay attention to the matches because my beard was so distracting.
That's fair. It's jiu-jitsu. It's submission only. There are moments when there's just not much to watch. And that's when Scotty's beard is taking key stage.
But you mean to tell me that your beard could have caused a halt to Metamoris?
I'm not trying to tell you anything, but Halleck was in charge. I'm there to help 110%. I totally back him, and I love what he's doing. I put my money down big time to sponsor that thing, and so I didn't want to argue with the man.
So that covers part 1. Part 2 of that, I guess, a loaded set of sentences you strung together there was, holy shit, 3 referees back out. I could maybe understand 1, but 3.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely changed things up for me for the day. I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely stressing. I was nervous. I mean, here, this is the match of the century. I got 20 years worth of jiu-jitsu street cred on the line, and luckily there was no points. If there was points involved or anything like that, and there was going to be one referee, I wouldn't have done it for sure. There's no way I would have done it. But I spoke to Halleck, and I said the way I look at it is I should pretty much be invisible out there. These guys are all professionals. They know what they're doing. Unless they're falling off of the mat, then I shouldn't really be doing anything out there. He agreed with me, and away we went.
And at any point, did you try and be like, did you have an OTM referee shirt prepared, or did you have to go with just something you found nearby?
I just had to run to the mall, which was luckily right across the street from the hotel, and get some stuff.
Scotty, did you ever have a moment, though, where you wanted to just, reset them just so that you could get a better logo for On the Mat, optimal gi presentation?
That's genius, Raph. That's a great idea.
No, that wasn't really going through my head at all. I just, I just wanted to, I just wanted all the matches to go well and everything to go good. I felt like, I was getting a lot of exposure out there. Already, I was really proud of all my guys. Everybody did really well. So, plus my guys were the best dressed guys out there. I mean, Eddie looked awesome in his Lucky Gi pants and his OTM 10th Planet rash guard.
He did.
And Hoyler,
he looked badass.
Hoyler needs me to make some gear for him because he looked like he showed up with some stuff out of his dirty hamper.
You were as close as anyone was to it. How bad was the knee?
Oh man, I saw that thing, move out of joint and displaced 3 different times.
Oh.
But Hoyler, he's known for that stuff. He's like Gumby. He has those flexible joints that can come in and out. And there was one point where Eddie had Hoyler in that 100% neck crank, and Hoyler's foot started spasming when he was trying to get out, and I made one of those faces, and Hoyler looked me right in the eye, and he saw me making that face, and he said, "I'm not going to tap," and I'm like, "I'm not going to stop it." But you look like you're in a lot of pain, I was thinking. So, I mean, there's no way I was going to stop a match because I thought somebody was in pain. Pretty much they were going to have to be screaming tap before I was going to stop any. There would be no early stoppages with Scotty on the mat refereeing, that's for sure.
I'll say this. Eddie did look badass. It was the first time I looked at the gi pants rash guard combo and was like, damn. He is wearing that. So my compliments, I guess is what I'm saying. That's an impressive outfit.
Thank you.
Yeah, you actually, a group of my friends, we were talking about the matches Monday, obviously, like everyone was as we were training. And they were talking about how bad that knee crank hurts. And everyone was actually complimentary. It was like, it was really nice he didn't stop it. That would have really sucked if there had been controversy. So you got the approval of the entire jiu-jitsu world. Even out here in Virginia, people were impressed.
I mean, man, it was tough with that restart, with Hoyler trying to go on top and Eddie, taking the bottom position and stuff. And when they first sat, Hoyler came over like he was on top and Eddie sat down. And I later heard on Joe Rogan's podcast that Eddie was going to pull him on top and then roll him over. But, nobody told me that. So I was like, what are you doing, Eddie? You're supposed to be on top. And it became a big argument. And then Hoyler was trying to argue that he was on top. And, thank God Kenny Florian and Jeff Glover were able to get the replay up there. First time a replay was ever used in a jiu-jitsu match as far as I know.
Don't think we didn't notice.
Yeah.
we Go ahead, Rap.
And we want to be part of this movement that really is calling it the Scotty replay. Is that a movement that you've heard of?
I had not heard it, but go for it.
Well, we're going to take credit for it as if we were the ones to come up with, because we want this to be a jiu-jitsu rule. Because the hardest part about this is when you saw that reset happen, there's a guy who I was sitting next to at the event live who was terribly making dumb comments. But the one great thing he said was, of course this match is going to have some drama.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it? And because the pressure was so high, the only way that could have been remedied is through a replay. Did you find that an invaluable resource when you were up there? Because I saw the look in your face, and I was just like, God damn it, he does not need this right now.
We were with you, too, by the way. You were in a shitty situation. Like, both fighters completely ignored the position they were in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was. I was thinking, when the whole thing was starting, I was talking to Raka and everything, and I'm like, I know at some point tonight, some BS is going to go down, and my street cred is going to be on the line. And of course, it gets down to the last fight, and in between, you have to understand, in between each match, Rocco was making fun of me because I couldn't remember my stupid lines that I was supposed to say in between. I kept messing them up. And so basically we got down to that last match and he goes, "Well, you know it's going to be in this one then, right? Because we haven't had a bad call all night." And I'm like, "Ah, you jinxed me, man, for sure." And so I was highly aware that something was going to happen. And, and Halleck and I had talked before, and a couple of things that he wanted to make sure that I did was, one, he didn't want me to drag anyone back into the middle, and he didn't want people rolling over back in the middle because he thought it looked unprofessional and it wasn't, broadcast quality. And I totally agreed. And I said, well, how am I going to make sure these people get back in this position? And he talked about honor and that people were, going to respect honor and go back to the position that they were supposed to be in, and honorable warriors. And then, of course, we get back to that time. And I don't want to throw Hoyler under the bus. I've been friends with Hoyler forever, and he's an epic warrior. I respect him, probably one of the most out of all of the competitors in the Gracie family. And maybe he just really didn't remember or didn't understand where he was at, because it was a crazy position.
I mean, adrenaline's a tricky thing.
Sure, and there was a lot of pressure,
chalk it up to
a
that.
lot of people yelling, and
but he also disagreed with you. He kind of looked at you like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like, "Hey, buddy, you were without question not in the cradle. You weren't cradling him, so that's why." But yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I was just, of course, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of yelling going on. One thing I didn't know was that my mic was live. So when I said, "Hoyler, lay the fuck down," I didn't realize I was getting broadcast to the whole entire world. And afterwards, I was chastised for cursing during the broadcast. But I was getting frustrated, you know what I mean? And I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys know this, but 3 years ago, I had a back surgery. I broke my back in 3 places. And, walking around and standing up there for 3.5 hours, I was starting to get sore and uncomfortable. And that's why I was actually kneeling down on the mat, was to take some pressure off of my lower back, because it was starting to hurt. And so I was getting a little bit grouchy, not to mention it was like, hot. It was so much hotter when you just climbed up on up on that stage, and with those lights and with 1,000 people in there. It was definitely warm in there. I was sweating, my what's off. And so it was getting to me a little bit, and I was a little bit frustrated and a little bit like, "Oh, come on, you guys know where you're at. Like, just get down there, just do it,
Yeah. Do you feel like you could have also, maybe in between matches, in retrospect, asked for maybe a lawn chair?
Yeah, I might do that next time.
I mean, and I do have to say this, and Kevin, I don't know if you know this, but Scotty, true or false, was that your first time refereeing?
That was my first time refereeing, yes.
Holy shit. Okay, no, I did not know that.
It does not look like it, and I think that's a true testament to you really being impartial between these matches. We've talked a little bit about the drama. What was the hardest part for you in refereeing these things?
Probably not falling asleep during Clark Hoffa.
Well, can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was a long match.
It was a long match. I mean, I wanted to say something, but I'm not allowed to, it was really disappointing because, those guys are both killers and they're both awesome at jiu-jitsu. And I don't know what happened in that particular match that, I don't know if Hoffa was just stuck on trying to do the same thing, do his signature move over and over again, or what happened, but it wasn't really much of a show. It was pretty disappointing in my opinion.
And the thing is I've heard you on the Save Jiu-Jitsu podcast, which if you haven't heard, please support our good friend Rafael Lovato and those folks. But one thing that was interesting was Rafael was saying that it was a little disappointing to see that Hoffa wasn't going to pass, and that maybe that was the biggest problem. Was that something that you felt? Because you have the best seat in the house. What was the disappointing aspect from his game
Well,
then?
he certainly did sweep Clark back, onto his butt a few times, and I felt like he had the opportunity to come up and try to pass from then. I mean, he didn't try to pass the entire match. I mean, his brother did a great job of passing and showing multifacets of his game and submitting Samir.
And attacking.
So,
Yeah.
like I'm not really in a position to criticize anybody's jujitsu, especially guys on that level. But as far as on an entertainment level and making the match exciting, that was the low point of the event for me.
And it's got to be kind of hard to stay really concentrated on that much jiu-jitsu from a standing up there watching. That's why they change out referees in mixed martial arts. You always see in the UFC, just because concentrating on a fight that long can be really mentally and physically taxing, especially since you were essentially, I mean, your job was just to make sure no one got too hurt or to wake someone up. How much does that play into like just the anxiety of the matches?
I mean, it was long, you know what I mean? Like I was up there for a long time. The half-hour break definitely helped. I got a chance to get something to eat and get something to drink. And then, of course, the Hoyler Eddie match was so exciting, and there was so much going on and so much energy in the room there. I've been at a lot of the big UFC events, and to me, there was just as much energy going on during that match as there has been at any other fight or anything that I've been at. So
Absolutely.
that definitely woke me up. I knew I had to pay attention during that match. I didn't want to blow it in front of everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, during intermission, I would have been begging Raph to have like the biggest loaded bowl and maybe like 2 or 3 beers I could kill. Just like I got a referee for another 60 minutes, Raph. Help me out here. So if I ever get the tap days before, please make that note. So, Scotty, we're actually kind of curious. Tell us about Save Jiu-Jitsu and what your involvement is over there. And Raph and I are just curious how you met Rafael Lovato. He's a friend of ours, and we're obviously huge fans. We were just curious how far back that relationship goes.
Lovato and I were talking about this before. I don't remember when exactly we met. I think he was maybe like 15 or something like that. I've been sponsoring him, I think, since Blue Belt. And he lived at my house with me in Brazil. And we just been friends for a long time. I don't remember exactly when we met, but yeah, the Save Jiu-Jitsu thing, it started out, with the 1 year in the Worlds. I can't remember which one it was, maybe 2010 or 2011. We just had all those scissor banging fests, and I made that No Scissor Banging Save Jiu-Jitsu t-shirt that everybody went crazy about. And, it's just, I look at jiu-jitsu now, and I think if I was a new person coming in to start training and stuff, that I wouldn't be doing it, If I walked in and I just seen 2 guys playing footsies and playing advantages and stuff, I never would have become involved with it, and I never would have had a passion for it. And I think that it's a bummer that it's gotten so boring and it's gotten so far away from its roots.
Very interesting. We actually really appreciate that. You're an elder in jiu-jitsu in the sense of, and you're a young, obviously. You've just been at it so much longer than when it exploded. And I'm always curious, is that what you see as sort of one of the biggest downfalls of the evolution of how popular jiu-jitsu has gotten? Just the sort of sport versus traditional martial art, the thing we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, the sport, I don't have anything against the sport part of it. I love to compete, and I love to see competitions, and they can be very, very exciting and very cool. Just at some point, it got away from the idea was to try to submit the guy to win, to just doing as little as possible to win. And I think that it's unfortunate.
Where do you think that modification comes from for the athletes involved? Like, what do you think is the incentive for them?
I think it's so hard to, other than like Metamoris and what some of the big grappling events like Grappler's Quest and Five and Dream
and some of these other events do with some tiny amounts that they pay out to pro divisions, it's impossible to be a professional jiu-jitsu athlete because the way the tournament series is set up, you can only be a hobbyist. Now, if you own a gym, then you're a professional gym owner. You're not a professional jiu-jitsu athlete. So it's unfortunate that there's no way that you can be a professional athlete in jiu-jitsu. So therefore, you have to make your money by selling DVDs or selling seminars because you can't make a living by winning events. So therefore, winning the events become important because the difference between winning the event at all costs to get all those seminars lined up and losing or taking second or third place and then not being able to get those seminars, not be able to sell those DVDs, it becomes a big difference. So at some point along the lines, winning became more important than showcasing your skills and your submissions. Back in the day, we had guys like, Nino Shemri, Fredson Pashoun, Shaolin, all these different guys that would go out there and put on submission clinics and didn't really, of course they wanted to win, but, showcasing what they were doing, their moves, their submissions and stuff, it seems was more important than just holding on and, doing whatever it takes at the last second to win. You don't see these comeback from behind wins as much. It's become a lot more strategy and a lot more of a game than going out there and fighting to try to dominate your opponent and to submit people.
This is fascinating. Sorry, I just got lost in that. Scotty, this is why we were talking about like a one-man show on Broadway. This is really interesting stuff. What year did you start training jiu-jitsu too? Just to give a total tonnage of how much time you've been around.
Okay, well, I actually started training jiu-jitsu in like 1993 or 94, but I don't really count that because I was living in Hollywood and Haile Gracie had an academy in Newport Beach, and so I would have to drive like an hour and a half to go down there once a week. A good friend of mine, Rob Carter, who trains under Megaton in Arizona, he was training jiu-jitsu before UFC 1, and he introduced me to it. But it was, I would drive down there. They only showed 3 moves a day. Full-time jiu-jitsu in 1995 with Half Gracie, and I moved up to Northern California for work and drove by his academy and stopped and pretty much signed up a day or two later and started training full-time from then on.
And at some point, you lived in a house with Rafael Lovato. Does jiu-jitsu break out at any time there? We know what an intense competitor he is. Would you leave the couch messy and it turns into like a 10-minute submission-only match in the living room?
Well, my first house in Brazil, we had no couch. We just had we matted
Perfect.
the entire living room and bought like 20 bean bags because the walls were made out of cement. So the beanbags would line the walls, and they would be put in some type of configuration for either watching TV or they'd be circled around the walls for training. And my house was called Casa dos Gringos, and it was full of jiu-jitsu guys at all times, and there was all kinds of training and drilling and strategy, and at any hours of the day or night was going on at my house.
That sounds like the perfect spring break now. In my late 20s.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's really living the dream there. When you're in there, you were living in Brazil. You lived there for about 3 years, is that correct?
Yeah, about 3 years.
What was the biggest takeaway from it? Because I've heard you speak about the difference between going there for a week and living there. And you say that you don't really get the experience until you're there, at least for a month. Can you describe that experience that you had in Brazil?
Yes, so I always tell people that they should try to spend at least a month there. I really feel like it takes a month before you start to get it, before you start to understand the culture and the feelings and the way people are down there. Of course, Brazilians are a lot different than Americans in a lot of ways, and I think that being in Rio, like the Carioca attitude, the laid back, relaxed type of attitude that they have. Is a great thing to experience. and to feel. Also, a lot of guys go down there. They end up dating Brazilian girls, and dating and sex and relationships in Brazil is way different than it is in America. And the jiu-jitsu there, of course, is it's just on a whole different type of level there. I can remember times going to the main headquarters of Gracie Baja and there being 50, 60 black belts on the mat there training. There was always more purple belts than blue belts and hardly any white belts training there at all. And there's all these different body types and all these different game types and player types. And so you can really go down there and it's just, the schools are so big, the tradition is so old, the guys are so technical, they're so good. It's easy to run into like a purple belt there that has like a black belt and beyond guard or top game, and everybody has their special moves that they specialize in, and to be able to watch them, study them, train with them, it's awesome, man. It's an amazing experience. Anyone that's into jiu-jitsu, I highly recommend going to Brazil for a little while. I always recommend people go stay with my old roommate Dennis Ash at Connection Rio down there. And go down there with an open mind and an open heart and really try to suck up as much of the Brazilian culture, food, people, training that you can.
What was the biggest, I guess if everybody specializes in a move, what was something that you were able to take away? Was there a particular field in jiu-jitsu or a particular move set that you were able to take away when you moved back to California?
Before I went to Brazil, in the academy at House, we had a lot of high-level wrestler guys, so I was forced to play the guard a lot there, and I was a lot more of a guard player. And then when I got to Brazil, almost everybody always pulled guard on me, so it forced me to develop a lot more of my top game. I spent a lot of time with another guy who lived at my house. His name's Pete the Greek. He has a school, Rio Jiu-Jitsu, in Chicago. And the two of us studied a guy named Hanato Minagaya, who's considered the master of the over-under pass. He has a match on Copa de Jiu-Jitsu number 2, which is the event where Royce got choked out by Valigi. And him and Nino Schembri are known for the over-under pass and how they do that pass. And that was something that the two of us spent a lot of time studying and working on it. It's still my bread and butter pass. I use it against a lot of people, and it works really well.
That's the coolest. So as a younger male, both wildly into jiu-jitsu and ladies, scale of 1 to 10, how badly do I need to go spend a month in jiu-jitsu? Or I'm sorry, in Brazil.
11.
11? Okay, so it's north of 10. And we trust Scotty's opinion on this one, especially. Scotty, we also saw that you were doing a really cool seminar recently for people that are working on gi design and people just kind of budding into the industry. And before we were talking to you about your new mentorship, what is it about staying in that role as a mentor that you find fascinating? Talk to us about your transition from just sort of running your business to now helping other people get started and helping others with it.
Well, it's just kind of a natural progression of things. I've been lucky enough to have some people who have mentored me. I've gotten really a lot of mentoring recently in the internet marketing area, and I've been working with a lot of people in that, and I've really seen the value in how much it can help you progress and also how valuable it is. So I looked and I saw, well, how can I help people in jiu-jitsu, in my field? Like, where can I lend my expertise to people and help them? And in talking to my mentors and stuff, that's where I got the idea to do the BJJ Brand Builders program. When I first started looking into making jiu-jitsu gis, Howard Liu from Howard Combat Kimonos, John Awano from Awano Kimonos, and Ed Clay from Gameness Kimonos were all people who helped me out, gave me advice, didn't look at me as a competitor, and realized, we need more businesses in the space in order to grow the space. So I did a couple surveys, and I asked people what they wanted to know, and I put together a webinar based on what people wanted to know and what I could teach them. Another real reason why I wanted to do it was I was tired of hearing about all of these stories of people getting ripped off by either fake Pakistani manufacturers or Pakistani manufacturers in general. After I went to Pakistan in 2005 and I taught the factories over there how to make Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gis the same way I learned that they were being made in Brazil, now that explosion of Jiu-Jitsu and the internet has occurred, it's almost like the new Nigerian scam to contact people that have a Jiu-Jitsu based website. You guys might get the emails too, dear kind sir, we are a longtime manufacturer. We can make the best Jiu-Jitsu gi for $1.95 a gi. And, unfortunately people are falling for the scam and they're losing money. I just had a guy last week hit me up. He only lost $700, but still he sent $700 for samples and never got anything. Because of the sheer volume of jiu-jitsu gis that I make and that I'm bringing over, and the relationships that I have with the factories over there, most of the time I can get people's gis made for them for the same price or a couple bucks more than what they're paying to somebody who they've never met, they don't know, could fold at any time. So I tried to offer people a way to get their products and still be able to sleep at night. If you're wiring $10,000 over to Pakistan, it can be really stressful. I know I went through it at first when I first started manufacturing, and it's a crapshoot. You're sending them over there. You don't know that person. Maybe you talk to them on Skype or just back and forth by email. But there's a lot of people who have lost a lot of money out there, and that made me sad and angry at the same time. So, of course, I'm doing this to create business and make money for myself too. It's not a charity act by any means. However, I can make uniforms for people for the same price, make my small little cut on it, but also put all of my years of expertise into it to help them make sure that they get exactly what they want. It's a quality product, and they can do it risk-free. When you wire money into my bank account here in America, we have legal systems and stuff that protect that person. Whereas if you Western Union or wire your money to Pakistan, it can just disappear into thin air. And what are you going to do about it? You're going to go over there and look for it, have fun.
Plus, if you're looking for Scotty, you can find him on the Metamoris pay-per-view for just $20. Just a suggestion. I'm saying, and Scott, it's very visible.
This is interesting to us because Kevin and I have an unofficial agreement between the two of us. That's if we ever wanted to create a gi, the first step in that process is to call and have you yell at us.
Yeah, I was like, we'll just have Scotty send us an email being like, "You two are stupid." I'm like, yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
We'll just buy the Lucky Gi series. We'll just pin a VT logo.
That's adorable that the two of you think you can make these.
That'll be the desire.
Now you're just teasing us at this point. Scotty, the thing for us though is when you do have those things and you are building those brands, and we love the webinar. Like Kevin and I didn't necessarily have a gi brand that we were interested in, but we listened to your webinar and we were so impressed with what you're doing with the community. What is it that you feel the community for jiu-jitsu is missing the most in this area of both business and trying to get it to those steps where it is that popular sport that everybody wants it to be?
Well, I think the sport's popularity is just exploding. On the webinar, I showed that Facebook is showing at that time 10 million people with interest in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu worldwide through Facebook. Of course, the whole world isn't on Facebook. However, here we are about 2 months later, and I did another worldwide check on it, and it's jumped up to 12 million. So that's another 2 million users and a million users a month expressing interest. Shows some really rapid growth in the sport. So the space is growing quickly. That webinar has got me a pass on. Like I said, I'm going over to Qatar and the UAE to meet with some people over there who saw my webinar and are interested in doing some work with me. So I think if you put that good energy out there and you try to help, resonates with people, they appreciate it, and you get good opportunities that come back from it.
Well, Scotty, we really appreciate it. He's actually, and for Verbal Tap listeners, you can probably hear some sort of things. Scotty's been really putting up with some service issues for us tonight too, so we appreciate your patience here this evening, Scotty.
My pleasure. It's not your fault.
Most definitely. And Scotty, I do have to ask. It's cool. We've had this whole thing about hemp geese, not hemp geese, coming up recently. What is your take on that landscape in this world right now?
I will put out there that I've been ripped off by manufacturers and lied to by manufacturers. When I was trying to make the very first bamboo jiu-jitsu gis, I was ripped off by the place that milled the fabric for my pants. I was supposed to get 10.5-ounce twill bamboo pants. Instead, I got 7.5-ounce. They probably saved a nickel a yard, and all the pants that I got ripped. It was very devastating. I lost tons and tons of money. But, that being said, I went back. I replaced every single pair of pants for people who had their pants rip. I refunded anybody who wanted a refund. I replaced, complete uniforms. And I feel like you really have to take responsibility for it. I started looking into making gis out of hemp in the late 90s. I think Howard Liu was also doing it at the time. I got some samples made, but I could never get the correct fabric top. I could come up with great pants, but I couldn't get the right fabric. I'd been over to China 6 times trying to get it done, and I still couldn't get it done. And then through a mutual friend of mine, I was introduced to Chris from Datsusara, who had been manufacturing hemp backpacks and hemp bags. He was trying to get hemp gis made, and he had the quality of hemp figured out. However, his backpack manufacturer, they didn't know how to make a gi. So the two of us teamed up, and he used his fabric, and my gi manufacturer, I helped him make, I think, his second or third batch of hemp gis, which came out really good. In return, he turned me on to the mill that created his hemp fabric, and I made some changes in the fabric that he was using, came up with my own fabric, and then made my hemp lucky gis. And I realized right away when I heard about those other hemp gis that something just wasn't right. When I spoke to the guy that was making them, he was telling me that he was shipping hemp from China to Pakistan and then having it milled in Pakistan and then the gis made and shipped to the United States. And it just didn't add up to me. I'm like, well, how is it that you can make a gi? How can you pay for all that extra shipping in between and you're making a uniform for less than it costs for me just to make the fabric? So unfortunately, I feel like the guy whose company it was, he hasn't handled this situation properly. I do feel like there's a little bit of deception that was going on there. If he really was buying bulk hemp from China, it would be very easily to scan and put up a piece of paper that's called a BOL, which is your bill of lading. That's a piece of paperwork that all products that are imported and exported from one country, it's almost like your shipment's passport, so to speak. It has official country stamps on it, and it says right on it what you're importing, what the classes are, what the codes and stuff. So if he was really doing what he said he was doing and he was deceived, there would be a lot of documentation that could be provided to prove that. I know Chris spoke to him over 2 years ago and expressed his concern, not as a competitor, but as a person who has a lot of passion for the hemp products. Chris lives in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, we
He's
love
like a
Chris. We
hippie
love the
guy.
Datsura bags. They're amazing. Or the
Yeah,
Datsusaras.
so I mean, he's a very ethical person. He's not a cutthroat, shisty businessman. And him reaching out to that company and saying, look, there's some issues with your products. You really need to look into it. And to let 2 years go by before you supposedly look
Sure.
into it doesn't paint yourself in a good light to me. This sandbox that we all play in called jiu-jitsu is very small, very tight-knit, especially those of us who have been around for a while. We all know each other for a long, long time. And we've competed together, we've trained together, we partied together.
Absolutely.
And it's really bad when something like that happens and it's handled wrong and it's not taken care of. So the ball's in that guy's court. Me personally, if I had bought a uniform and I was expecting that it was something, that it was hemp, and it turned out not to be hemp, me personally, I would do anything I can to make it up to my clients and to the community. I'm not really seeing or hearing that from him, but then again, I've been very busy doing everything with Metamoris, getting ready for it, and doing everybody's uniforms. I don't stay on top of a lot of that drama, but I have seen some stuff on Facebook. I have seen some stuff on MMA.tv about it.
We're giving it a few weeks before we cast a final. We're just kind of waiting to see if something comes out. We're hoping it will.
And I've seen the uniforms. It's not that they're a bad quality uniform or they're poorly produced, but
it's just not what they
I
were
do know I
branded
saw
as.
the guy at the Jiu-Jitsu Expo, and I said, hey, if these things are really hemp, let's get a lighter out and burn them. And he wasn't open to that. And I own my own sublimation facility here in Los Angeles. We have our own factory. We make all of our rash guards and our shorts and spats and stuff and T-shirts right here in America, made in the USA. So I'm very familiar with sublimation. I have a gentleman, Matt Gussie, who works out of our office, and we use his equipment. And he's one of the leading experts in sublimation in the world. Like, he does all of Disney's sublimation. He does stuff for big-time NFL teams and stuff like that. And when I talked to him about the guy having hemp rash guards that were sublimated, he's just flat out said it's impossible. It can't be done. It won't work. Even a blend that this guy was saying was impossible. So, when I asked him about it, I said, hey, how do you know this is what you're really marketing it to be? And you ever notice, we can tell sometimes by somebody's response, where they're coming at it. And instead of coming at it like, oh, really? Curious and concerned about it, I've got anger and distaste back from them. So that again to me is either a sign of character or somebody knowing what was going on. At any time, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, your product might not be what you think it is," I would instantly be concerned to figure out, well, what's going on? Really, how do you know that? You know what I mean? I'm concerned about it. My customer service is a huge, huge thing for me in my business, and I answer a lot of customer service emails myself. I monitor them all, and I'm at every tournament that I can get to, and I put myself out there. I talk to people, and I want to know. I started making jiu-jitsu equipment and gear because I couldn't get what I wanted. I went after creating the first Lucky Gi because nobody else was doing what I thought could be done. So to me, somebody who doesn't want to, someone who's not open to criticism or feedback, it makes me kind of look at that person like, well, what's going on here? Really, and maybe the person's deceived, but it starts to feel like they're the deceiver when they act like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would just say the interesting thing is to be able to get your perspective as somebody who has been in that fight, in that, when you say you're putting a hemp gi out, you really mean it. And we know from Chris's angle, this has been something that he feels passionate about. So I guess the ultimate question for me that I've always wondered is, do you feel there's a way back out of this? Do you feel there's a way to save that business just based on your own principles and what you've seen as a business owner like this?
I absolutely do. You know, when I had the problem with all those defective pants with the bamboo Lucky Geese, I could have ran away and hid and kept a lot of people's money. But instead, I put a big post up on my website and on Facebook about what happened and what I was doing to resolve it. I refunded people's money and let them keep the uniforms. I remade the pants in cotton as fast as I could, and I paid to have them air shipped over from China, which cost me a fortune. I then took every single person that ordered the gi. I put a pair of pants. I put a free DVD. I printed out a letter that I hand signed, apologizing, explaining what happened, and offered them a refund or another gi from then on. And I packed them all up, and I paid the shipping, and I expressed them out all over the world and all over the United States at no cost to any of my clients. And, you know, it's still to this day, if people have a problem with a product that I've come out with, I always do my best to try to resolve it. So I think that if the guy who owns that company, you know, I seen he put out a blog post that, you know, blamed the manufacturers and blamed stuff, but you know, I haven't, again, of course, I'm out of the loop. So if some of this stuff has been done, then great. I'm glad it's being done. You know, and in that case, it is being handled correctly. But I think the correct way to solve it is just like when a car company has a problem with a car, you have to do a recall. You have to reach out to these people and say, look, you did not get what you paid for. If you are not satisfied, I am willing to do whatever it takes to make you satisfied, be it either refund your money, get you a new uniform, give you a discount, give you a credit for another uniform. You have to, you know, be able to take that burden on your shoulders and make it right. You know, when you put a product out onto the market, at least I know when I put a market out on the product, my face is on there. I don't hide behind a name or anything. You can see my videos all over YouTube. You can see me at any tournament. You can post up on forums everywhere. The only one I don't post on is SureDog. I don't know, for some reason I got banned off of that one. I have no idea why.
I've had a similar problem. It's not you.
So yeah, you know, I don't
actually,
go on SureDog.
It's a vote of honor if you've actually been voted off of SureDog. So, you know?
That's a good sign. Yeah.
Well, I'll take that medal. I mean, Jeff Sherwood's an old friend of mine. I helped him launch SureDog.com back in the day. You know, we communicated back in the day and talked about servers and HTML and all this stuff to get it going. I realize he's not really that involved in it anymore, but I just think that it's funny, you know, that I have like a join date of, you know, day one from the forum on there, but somehow whoever kid or whatever can kick me off, who definitely hasn't been on there as long as I have, but whatever, I don't care. You know, the way I look at it is they're losing out on my feedback because, you know, when I go post on any of these forums or any of these groups, I try to be honest. I try to bring good information, and you know, I try to bring, you know, my 20 years of jiu-jitsu experience to things. So if they're not interested in hearing that, then why should I waste my time putting that information out there? But, you know, back to the situation with this quality of the product and stuff, I think he can turn it around, but I think he needs to, you know, step out and say, you know, apologize, make an offer, and try to resolve the issues. I had somebody hit me up on Facebook today who got one of those uniforms that was interested in buying one of my uniforms because he was disappointed. He thought he was getting a hemp uniform. Unfortunately, my uniforms are sold out right now, and I couldn't hook him up. But I let him know when my next ones come out. You know, I'll totally hook him up. I'll give him a deal because I feel bad that he lost money investing in that other company.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the ball's in that guy's court. We'll see what he does with it. There's plenty of great new gi companies coming out. I myself am launching some new gi companies through my mentor program, and their products are looking fabulous. We have some killer stuff coming out. Chris and I were talking last night. He has some killer new stuff coming out. And the guys from Flow have some cool new hemp stuff coming out. And now that the three of us are pooling together to buy this new hemp fabric in a larger quantities and larger amounts. The price of the hemp uniform should come down significantly and be more affordable to everyone.
Well, Scotty, this is fantastic, and we appreciate it. We're also huge fans of your product. We're huge fans of pretty much anything you make.
And I was about to say, was the goal of this interview to just get my wallet and just take it? Because
I was going to say,
he's talking about these geese that he's going to be putting out, and I'm like, I want all of it. Give me all of it, Scotty. It's fine. Just take my wallet. It's
do you
yours.
have layaway? Is that a thing at onthemat.com? That might just be Kmart. I struggle.
We do have a payment program.
Perfect. Perfect. Scotty, no joke. Anyone you talk to in the jiu-jitsu MMA community that knows you, that has ever known you or has been around, has kind things to say about you, and it's because you always take time out to talk to people like us and spread the gospel about jiu-jitsu and just anything. So we really appreciate your time tonight and encourage everyone to hit onthemat.com. You're the best. This was great.
Well, thank you guys very much, man. It's been awesome to be on your show. I appreciate the support and all the kind words. It really means a lot to me. I've always tried hard to bring good products and good things to light in the jiu-jitsu community. You know, I used to promote and throw tournaments and create products and open stores, and I've always just done things to try to give back to jiu-jitsu and to, you know, really try to grow the sport and have it be something that more and more people can be involved in.
We really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Nelson. Verbal Tap fans, you're used to us having guests that Raph knows, or Raph gets to harass on a routinely basis with jiu-jitsu questions and such. This time we have someone from my area. That's right, Raph. Do you feel the power shift? Do you feel like there's a power shift going on?
I feel like you're doing a terrible introduction for a wonderful human being, but
that's
we're still
probably
happy to
true.
have him, so it's not a competition to bring a better guest, but I'm excited to talk with Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you doing tonight? And Kevin, do a better introduction now.
From Capital MMA and Elite Fitness, 4 locations throughout the DMV area, Gracie Black Belt, Jeremy Lafreniere. Jeremy, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
We are stoked to have you on the podcast. And if you're out in this area, you know who Jeremy is. But we wanted to have you on because a lot of our listeners are always curious, like, you know, what was it like before jiu-jitsu exploded? What was it like before MMA exploded? And you're a great guy to answer those questions. Talk to me about the timeline. When did you start Capital MMA and Elite Fitness?
Yeah, and by the way, I only heard part of that, so let me, if you can rephrase that, or at least say it again. What's it like before Jiu-Jitsu exploded, before MMA exploded? Is that the question?
Yeah, well, and like, when did you start Capital? Because you started before all these sports exploded,
yes.
So I was just curious what that was like from a time frame.
Yeah, no, so it's actually pretty cool. So I graduated from the University of Connecticut with an elementary school teaching degree. So that goes back many years now. And I became, after that, you know, I became the first student of the first Gracie school in Connecticut. And that was 1997. And it was really, really cool. It was a total mistake. I was actually taking Aikido classes. And so one of the Aikido instructors would travel an hour and 15 minutes each way, twice a week, to train with the Westchester crew. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Steve Cardian or John Burke or Rob Kahn or anyway, Mike Casey, a bunch of guys from way back in the day. And so, you know, that was my introduction, was by accident, Aikido instructor, started teaching jiu-jitsu classes at the Aikido school, and I fell in love. It was amazing. And so I very soon after met Hoist Gracie and started teaching classes at that school when my instructor was away. And when I moved to this area in 1999, that's when Hoist asked me to start a little satellite program underneath him. And I did. It took me a couple of years to really grasp that idea. It was not a comfortable idea to have a school or, you know, a little program of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you're referring to Hoist Gracie asked you to do it.
Yeah. Well, you know, he was encouraging. So he was encouraging me to start a little satellite program, you know, and I did. And then it just grew. Actually, to be honest, at first it didn't grow at all. It was my friends who were coming to the art room of an elementary school. Just imagine this, you know, 1990, well, actually, I guess it was about 2000, pushing art room tables, you know, to the side, crayons spilling on the floor, bringing a dolly to the PE room and getting the mats, bringing them in, setting it all up. And half the time nobody would show. And the other half, when somebody would show, it was one of my friends who was just, you know, feeling sorry for me personally. So that was actually the beginning of Capital MMA.
Interesting.
I don't.
And, you know, you dial forward a year, and we've got about 10 students. Dial forward
Jeremy,
another year,
if
and
I
you've
could
got
be
about 30
so very
students, and then
frank
we
for a
opened up our
second.
own location. Yeah.
I was just going to say, why don't more academies, when they're starting, adopt that model? I see that opens up new jiu-jitsu possibilities.
A nice art room? I love it.
You mean stuff?
I'm thinking about
You know-
all the like hidden weapons you have with crayons. I think I could get a couple more sweeps at the very least.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, I tell you, you know, it was my ongoing joke for a long time that the reason why I was even doing this stuff to begin with was to defend myself against my own students. So there were some real monsters in my classroom at that time, and I'm not talking about jiu-jitsu classroom. I'm talking about the elementary school days. So.
That actually explains a lot about your atmosphere. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's really where I was going too. You said family-like atmosphere. We have 4 schools, but I think one thing that does separate us, and not from every school, but you know, there's a lot of schools with great communities. But I really am proud of the community aspect of Capital. And I think that that maybe it does have something to do with the roots, but it's a very strong community. A lot of people care about each other. They care about each other outside of the training environment, you know, and it's apparent, you know. I mean, tonight alone, I have people asking about other people at other locations even. So 4 locations, you're like, oh, it's so big, you know, everybody's just a number. It's not like that at all, actually, at Capital. No matter how big it gets, people are still extremely connected.
What do you attribute being able to merge the family culture with the MMA culture? Because those aren't necessarily audiences that merge a ton. You know, just given the nature of MMA, but you have people fighting in the local community, and you also have sort of just almost like daycare events at the gym. How do you balance that?
No, I guess part of it is not just about balance, but it's about trying to set an example. And I'm not a guy with a big ego. You know, I don't put my name on the building. I'm not interested in self-promotion. I just love jiu-jitsu. I really do. And so if you love jiu-jitsu, why add Muay Thai? Why add CrossFit? You know, why add MMA? Because I really wanted to meet the needs of my students. I had jiu-jitsu students who started to fight MMA. So they were asking, Coach, what can we do? You know, how can we get more striking in here? And I'm like, all right, I have an answer for that. Let's add a striking program. It's not about me, it's about them. And I think a lot of people have adopted that, you know, like it's not about me and my career. It's about helping the entire community become better. And by the way, I think a community that's always trying to make everybody else better is a community that challenges you more. Because if my goal is to make you better, then I'm going to get you to a place where you're going to challenge me more at a faster rate. So I like it. I like the model in both regards.
Absolutely. With the CrossFit culture, does it tend to, because we see a lot about, you know, sort of CrossFit culture versus MMA even, and just CrossFit cultures versus other things. Do you have any challenges maintaining the CrossFit side? Not
too much. You know, a lot of people, I think that the CrossFit adds that general physical preparedness element, you know, that GPP conditioning element to Capital. But as far as the cultures go, we have people who definitely train in one, as opposed to all. Some people train in two, even three programs. It's very rare that somebody trains in all the programs, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and CrossFit, but we do have some of those too. But when it comes down to it, CrossFit's not so different from a culture than it is Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai. You learn your skills, and then you play the game. And that's kind of how CrossFit is too. You learn the skills, you go through and you learn the technical aspects of CrossFit, whether it's a clean, a jerk, a snatch, how to swing a bell, how to do a pull-up, and then you play the game. It's on, WOD time. And you get your fire breathers who are going to crush everybody, and you get your people who are brand new, and the fire breathers are cheering them on. What's so different about that than jiu-jitsu, It's like, you walk into a class, you learn the skills, and then it's go time. I don't care if you're a white belt, you got to go with a black belt. Man, he's a fire breather, and he taps you out 6 ways a Sunday. It's great. But he's also cheering you on and teaching you as you go. So I think they're very similar cultures. It's just, kind of the ultimate goal is slightly different. But all of them, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and CrossFit, benefit the MMA fighter.
But remember the good old days when you just had to worry about one? Those were great.
Oh yeah, just one school and one program. That was beautiful days.
So Jeremy, how many schools are you up to right now?
We have 4 locations, and
Okay.
one is currently going through a big transition right now. We have, one of my students. You go back to families and kind of the background. One of my students would travel from Tacoma Park, Maryland to Alexandria, Virginia 3 times a week for years. He's been with me since January of 2002. And you dial forward in time, now he has a family of his own, and he just, the commute is becoming more and more difficult, and he asks me if he can open up a small satellite program in the Tacoma area. And I said no. I did not want to do it. It was too much, And so he kept asking me. After a year, he broke me down. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And now, that was about 5 years ago. Now he will actually have the first independent Capital MMA and Elite Fitness business. He's leased a space. He on May 1st, he opens the doors, and he will own it. It's going to be awesome. So
That's so amazing.
Not a satellite anymore. It's an independent program. part of the brand, but his own deal.
And for those who don't know, that's a serious drive he was making. If you're not in the area, that's one of the worst commuted areas in the United States. So that's amazing. I actually didn't know it was going to be an independent Capital MMA Elite. That's really cool.
And I guess the hard part is
it really is.
Between Kevin and myself, who own a combination of 0 gyms together.
No, but we have several
still there?
gis. We have
several gis, just not that many gyms, right?
Not enough.
If we
gyms.
did have a gym, this would be a terrible way to really talk about our business. But for you, I would say, Jeremy, what is the hardest aspect of keeping those 5 businesses around? Because we do talk to people who are owners, have maybe a gym or 2, but when you start getting into the multiples, what is the hardest part about keeping all of those in line?
It's having business acumen is something that's extremely important if you're going to own a business. I think that there's 3 different pillars that make the business or a business successful. And that is, you have to have the ability to manage the business. That's very important. In our industry, you have to have skills. Like you have to back up what you know. Like jiu-jitsu, that's just how CrossFit, any of it. Like if you're not good, it's going to show up. Or if you don't train because you don't roll with the students outside of the occasional white belt, it's gonna definitely begin to haunt you. And teaching ability. Like those are the 3 areas that are going to make your business grow. So what I found was by mistake, because I was an elementary school teacher. I loved to teach. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. what I found is that I had a little bit of an ability to manage business too. And so to keep it all together, my model is to help people with goals. Period. That's it. Very simple, How do I create an infrastructure that helps people with goals? And what are some of the goals that a person might have? Just fun. They just want a motivating environment that they can walk into and just enjoy themselves. And then, like Kevin said, we also have fighters. So, and by the way, those goals, they might seem far apart, but they're not so much, because what does the fighter need? Sponsors, fans. Well, where's your greatest resource for sponsors and fans? Your own training partners who are just there 2 times a week having fun, So I create a culture, at least I try to, where everybody can get a little bit of what they want. So
there you
that's
go.
Kind of how I also hold it all together.
I was to say, and he also has Don No as an employee, so that's probably not an example of being able to hold it all together. But you find some good ones in the mix. That's actually,
hey, I'm the good cop. He's the bad cop, so it works out perfect.
There you go. That's actually the first time I met him was through one of our very drunk mutual friends who introduces me to Jeremy and doing jiu-jitsu, and it was. I think at Fur nightclub, they were having MMA events, right where the dance floor is practically. And this was a little bit before MMA had exploded. This was 2009 when, and that was fantastic. So tons of fun to see that. But that's the local culture coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You were teaching a class tonight. Raph and I were like, what do you think he's teaching them right now? What were you going over?
We did a lot of drilling tonight. So the actual curriculum was mount retention, transitioning from cross mount to mount retention, and not so much submissions, but kind of staging submissions for next week. So, but we also did a ton of drilling. Just, I really felt like, they needed a little extra work on the guard and passing, just so more gauntlet style guard training. With a couple of notes, and then tomorrow night we're going to hit the curriculum pretty hard. So
there we go. Sounds thought out.
That's
too,
what we did,
which is always a nice, very very cool. What has been, and this is the question we have to ask you, what has been a big transition since the just over the last 3 to 4 years as you've gone from business person to coach to teacher? What's the biggest transition you've seen with the martial arts, jiu-jitsu, MMA community as a total?
So last 4 years, biggest transition is, and it's actually something that upsets me quite a bit, is the standards for black belt are deteriorating. It took me 16 years to get a black belt under Royce Gracie. And that's somebody who owned 4 schools. One of the things that I believe is happening, I've seen it in real time, is the standards are beginning to deteriorate. And one of my friends, and also a local community guy, David, he got completely hoodwinked. This guy, he contacts, a really very reputable, competitive local black belt. And, guy contacts him, has this whole story. Man, David ends up certifying a fake belt. It's unbelievable. So you're getting more of that as well. It's just crazy how easy it's becoming to get rank, and how many people are faking rank. So I think that's probably one of the biggest transitions, and it's one of those upsetting things to me personally.
I would like to say that is the most terrible thing I've ever heard of. Also, do you have their number where we could call them to get certified?
We're asking for friends.
We're asking for friends.
It's not for us.
for ourselves, no.
Obviously.
No, it's not.
Both of our instructors would find us and hurt us quickly.
It's always so funny because it's like when people do bring this up as a joke, even in our academy, you kind of sit there, and I think the hardest thing that it is for me to try and put together is how do you go to another place and then say like, hello, everybody. Hi. Online. Got this.
So let's roll.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, I just think it's amazing, and it's amazing, but it's also brainwashing. You see kind of that script on every Taekwondo school's wall across the country. Your goal is the black belt. I gotta admit, my goal is not the black belt. I mean, it took me 16 years, but you know what would have changed if I got the belt earlier, if I got the belt later? One thing that would not have changed is my training habits. That's one thing that would not have changed. I just love jiu-jitsu. I love training. I love grappling, But, most people, they really find just this sense of, accomplishment when they get the belt itself. Like, it takes precedence over the skill. And so, yeah, you do. You get a lot of people. They just feel they put either pressure on themselves or they feel some kind of pressure that doesn't really exist. And man, I mean, Hoist uses me an example all the time in the network. As a purple belt, had more students than most of the black belts in the network. So is that the reason why you're successful? Is it business? It's upsetting to see. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So,
and, that's just kind of the nature of how much bigger jiu-jitsu is getting.
Yeah.
It is getting to that point where people are going to try and do those variations. And I do tell people this. I'm like, there's a nice thing to be said about online supplemental programs, and not programs, but just information. Yeah. Like,
YouTube videos.
You can't be stupid about the fact that there is a digital thing that is changing the way people learn about things. However, until my computer learns to fight me or to teach me what I am drilling incorrectly, I think it's a far away from telling me it has the means to give me a belt. And that's just a personal preference, but it doesn't mean that what you can learn from it isn't great. And is that something that you're finding just as a person who owns these different academies, that is becoming a tool that more people are using? Like, they come and they go, oh, I learned this on YouTube. Let me drill it because I know it, right?
And I do encourage my students to go out there on YouTube and the other media sources. I actually believe in those. But also at the same time, I'm trying to give them an understanding of jiu-jitsu so that way they know they can see what is good technique and what is bad technique. Because just because it's on YouTube doesn't mean it's good technique. But it's nice to get a little extra dose of study. That's what it is. It's a resource, It doesn't take the place of the classroom, but it definitely can supplement your time in the classroom. But again, not every information is good information out there on the internet. That's for darn sure. Yeah, I know. It's
dare you? It's because he's from Connecticut.
Some of the stuff is laughable. Some of the stuff is okay. But there's actually good stuff out there too, and you got to give that credit.
That's absolutely. And Jeremy, you were just talking about how important these student-centered events are, and obviously Raph and I are both big believers of, you want to get better at any martial art, you got to be doing it. You have a ton of stuff coming up this weekend. You were just talking to us about your schedule, and I had to take a water break. You have Abmar Barbosa. You've got Mr. Ross coming at different locations.
We do have Abmar Barbosa coming on Saturday to our Loudon location. We have Kevin Ross coming this Saturday and Sunday. He'll be at Alexandria on Saturday, Loudon on Sunday. We also have some other cool events coming up. We have an in-house jiu-jitsu tournament, Muay Thai Smoker, and these things are actually gotten to be pretty big. It's not just a small, 10 or 15 people. At our last in-house tournament, we had about 70 people compete, and at our last in-house Smoker, we had about 250 people spectating, so pretty cool.
Muay Thai Smokers are a blast. They're the best to
Oh,
watch.
they're so much fun. They're so much fun. You know, it's authentic Muay Thai, and these guys are good, too. I mean, these local schools are producing some incredible athletes. It's a smoker, but you don't even know you're watching a smoker. And then the Capital Throwdown, which is our CrossFit event, and we have 80 teams coming to our school from all over. This is April 26th. They're coming from all over D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. And again, we have elite competitors who are making CrossFit their career, and they're going to be competing for some big cash prizes.
Well, there you go. That sounds fantastic. I might genuinely have to come check out one of these smokers. They do sound pretty cool. Jeremy, we appreciate you stopping by the podcast so much. If people are looking for you, they can, of course, find you. Just Capital MMA and Elite Fitness. Very accessible via social media and all other forms. We really appreciate you stopping by the podcast tonight.
Hey, call me up anytime, guys.
And this is only for you, but go Huskies. Just for tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome.
Whew. Scott Nelson, Jeremy Lafreniere. What a podcast this was, Raph.
Yeah.
I even learned some things about WrestleMania, which I didn't think was possible.
Well,
this was fantastic.
I feel like you would learn more if you actually gave it a chance.
Well, first of all, maybe, but probably.
I mean, here's the secret. When you make it back out here one of these days, I will watch an event with you, we will drink, and we'll watch it, and you'll see how stupidly fun it is.
Perfect. That's a date, sir.
Yep.
That is a date. It's time to break out of this podcast with some shout-outs. Would you like to get us started this evening, Raph Esparza?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's shout out Valley Martial Arts Center.
V-M-A-C. V-Mac.
Do you just combine things?
No. I was going with like a Captain America theme.
Okay. All the good training partners out over there, and let's see, who should we focus on this week? They just had the women's open mat, which was a huge success. Pam, who's our resident awesome judo black belt, who basically gave a judo and BJJ kind of seminar for everybody there. We have a new crash mat, which I don't know if you know this, Kevin. Crash mats and I don't get along.
I do know that anytime I've seen you near a crash mat, someone has taken it upon themselves to project you onto it.
Yeah.
Not even because you invited it. Like, sometimes it really sought you out, to your defense.
Yeah. I don't like the crash mat because it implies doing some form of judo that I don't understand. So it's always a matter of, all right, what throw am I not doing right today? But anyway, Pam's always good about helping out with that stuff. She's so great. And just from the photos I've seen, it looked like it was a huge success. So credit to them and everybody at VMAC. It's always a good day whenever we get like pictures of our nice facility seen all throughout the community. So props to everybody who came. We hope you enjoyed our facility as much as we do. And let's say thanks to David O'Rourke for hosting WrestleMania. Him and my buddy Gagne, Chris Gagne, good people. Alex Salverson. Think we had a good time drinking, yelling at the TV, especially when, the Undertaker lost. Everybody looked at each other, and it was a solemn, okay.
Did you cry?
No, I'm incapable of crying. As a human robot, it doesn't work for me. But am I allowed to understand what the emotion sad is? Yes. And I ask people what it's like to feel sad. So that was fun. But that was a good time, and I think that's about it. I think those are my shout-outs for this week.
Those are lovely. Mine go out to Juan doing some competing for us over there at BJJ and MMA Academy out in Chantilly, Virginia. Thank you so much for the continued push you always give in training. He's fantastic. He competed in a little submission-only good fight tournament this Saturday. Apparently, he had matches back-to-back. Andrew was saying he fought for 14-minute matches, 2 of them. It was just like, are you fucking 14 minutes regardless is as much time as you can possibly. That's just a lot. So big shout out to him, the whole crew, No Concept Jiu-Jitsu out there in Maryland, of course. And big thing coming up from, I finally got a little gi review done. Raph, a little spoiler, a little teaser. And Andrew over at BJJ Finder helped me put it together along with Barry Homer doing the photography, and that will be out for people's viewing pleasure here in the next few days. Check it out. Find us at Verbal Tapcast on Twitter. That's going to do it for me in the shout-outs. Of course, thanks to Jeremy. Of course, thanks to Scotty. Really great guys in MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, just all around. That's going to do it for us here tonight at Verbal Tap. I'm Kevin. Thank you for listening.
Good night and good fight.